Hi, everyone. So thanks so much for joining us on our Ask Me Live studio session. My name is Allison, and I'm actually a student here at Memorial. I'm in my final semester of business and actually will be a humanities and social science student in the fall. But I'm here today hosting because I'm a Memorial ambassador. So today we will be chatting with Mr. Robert Feaver from NL Student Aid and Miss Judy Casey, manager of the scholarships office at Memorial, about money matters, and financing your education. So there are just a couple of housekeeping rules to mention. So the session is being recorded. So if you are participating, you are consenting to that. Please ensure your mics are muted and your video is turned off. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. That's the main reason we are here. So let's get started. And can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your roles? Judy, if you'd like to go first.
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Judy Casey, and I'm the manager of scholarships and awards at Memorial. And my office is responsible for awarding all undergraduate scholarships. That includes entrance scholarships and continuing undergraduate. We also receive payments for external scholarships. So that would be for organizations from outside the university that award their own scholarships. But because the student happens to be attending Memorial, they send their payment to us. And we award a number of international scholarships as well. On the financial aid side, we act as liaison between students and their home province, and that applies to all of the provinces except Newfoundland. We don't provide that service for Newfoundland students because, of course, Newfoundland Student Aid is on campus, so they're easily accessible. We also administer U.S. student aid for U.S. students at MUN, and we do that on behalf of the U.S. Department of Education. So that's a little bit of an overview of what we do, and if you have any questions specific to those areas, I'd be happy to help you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Judy.
You're welcome.
And Rob, whenever you're ready.
Okay, hopefully, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me, Allison. That's going okay. Good afternoon, folks. Certainly a great day here in St. John's, obviously with the lovely weather we've been having this week. So really pleased to see that. My name is Rob Feaver, Director of the Student Aid Program here in Newfoundland and Labrador. My role is to oversee the administration of the federal and provincial student aid programs. That's a combination of both federal and provincial loans and grants under both programs. As Judy mentioned, myself and Judy have known each other for many years and worked closely together and collaboratively on many issues related to student financing. So it's good to see Judy on this call as well. We are located at Colgan College and have been there for 22 years now, believe it or not.
Wow.
I know it hit me hard the other day. And I've been there for most of those 22 years as well. So unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are not open to in-person visits. But our phone systems have returned as once we came back into the office back on June 15th, and our email services were never suspended, so they were kept on going. The application process is the main area of our business for this time of year. We normally operate under service standards regime, so we guarantee as best we can that applications will be turned around in 10 business days. Again, with the pandemic, we had to suspend that promise or guarantee. But due to the much great hard work of my team, we have maintained our 10-day service standard actually for the right up until today. So we're quite pleased with that. Other than that, happy to take your questions on any of the program, any of the issues with the program. And our website, www.gov.nl.ca/student-aid, of course, holds all the information that you would want to know about the student loan program. So I'll stop there. There's a bunch of changes, but hopefully those types of questions can come up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Great to see that a pandemic didn't stop you from doing your job.
Sorry, I got my video on. I just read the chat that time. Sorry, the video's on. I'm coming live from my basement of my house. So
Perfect. So you mentioned the Government of Newfoundland website just then. So is that how students apply for a student loan? And that's of course referring to NL, out of province, and international students.
So the Newfoundland program, or the Canada Newfoundland program, only applies to Newfoundland residents. So international students, obviously, they wouldn't qualify for any of the provincial or federal loans programs as an international student. But yes, that's a one-stop shopping there. Students have to register, set up an online account, and from there, then they can apply and access their online account for any notifications, any information that we want to push out through email. We have, over the last 4 or 5 years, we're trying to move to a more paperless process. So students now receive an email telling them they have mail in their online account, and that's anything from a notice of assessment or a request for information. Normally now would go through email or go into their online account.
Yes, super important to check your emails and your emails, keep up to date on that. I will remind everyone that if you do have questions, there is the chat box. But we'll go to the next question. So this one is relating to entrance scholarships. So do you actually need to apply to them, or?
No, so this is Judy again. No, most of our scholarships, whether entrance or beyond, are awarded automatically. So applications are not required. There are a few exceptions, and those exceptions are they're for scholarships that are very specific, have very specific criteria, and therefore, because they're so specific, we can't, through our database, identify students who qualify. So I'm talking about criteria that includes things like if a student has a disability, or if a student is a dependent of an employee of a particular company that offers a scholarship at MUN and that sort of thing. Other than that, as I said, we have enough information based on the student's application to award the majority of our scholarships automatically. And you asked specifically about entrance, so that definitely applies to entrance. But even once you get beyond your first year, a lot of our scholarships then are based on recommendations from faculty. So depending on what faculty you're in, they assess you for eligibility. Now, sometimes the faculty will require a student to apply within the faculty. So it's best to check with whatever faculty you're attending. It's best to check with your dean's office. But again, I just reiterate that most of our scholarships are automatic and applications are not required.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Judy. So are any of those scholarships renewable, or are they only given out to students once?
We do have some renewable scholarships, but the bulk of our entrance scholarships are 1 year only, and then students become eligible for the continuing undergraduate scholarships once they get beyond their first year.
Perfect. So the ones that you do need to apply to, how would you apply to them?
So we have an online application that's set up off our website. It's a little bit technical to explain how to get to the application itself, but you log in using your student ID. So what I'm going to suggest is that anyone who is interested in applying for one of those to email the scholarship's email address, and we will then send them the link to the application and the steps for applying. And the scholarship's email address is scholarships with an S, scholarships@mun.ca.
Perfect. And just want to mention quickly, if you're not seeing it, folks, actually over in the chat, Garrett is posting all of the links and emails that we're talking about right now. So if you didn't catch it at the time. So I guess this one would be for Rob. So I know personally, I'm a student with a disability. So are there any extra student aid supports that I can apply for?
Thanks. Great question. Lots of extra supports, actually. So on the initial application for student aid, when you apply, you indicate on that application if you have a disability. That allows the application to go forward. Then you verify the disability through a separate document. There's a form that gets attached to the application. Depending on the type of disability, if it's a learning disability, previous assessment verifying that the disability exists. So that gets you through the first step. And with that determination, there is an automatic $2,000 non-repayable grant that's issued to students. For the 2021 year, that $2,000 grant has doubled to $4,000 for this year only, coming up under the federal program. And then after that, that's the recognition that there may be additional supports or needs required because of the disability, and that's what that $2,000 is intended for. After that, it's the normal federal and provincial loans and grants that you become eligible for. But as a student with a disability, if you have other education-related needs due to the disability, there's a separate application for that, and we work with the London Centre at MUN actually to help students fill that out. That program, which is called the Canada Student Grant for Service and Equipment for Students with Disabilities, all these forms are on our website as well. Through that program, through a combination of the federal and provincial funding, the first $20,000, up to $20,000 of non-repayable grant funding comes from the federal program, and then the province will top up that $20,000 to whatever the value is. So ensuring that all education-related needs for disabled students are fully met by a non-repayable grant. We've had situations where we would need a facilitator for hearing impaired, for example, resource facilitator, and that can cost upwards to like $80,000 a year, and the program would fully pay for all of that between the federal and provincial program. So it's a quite a beneficial program there for students with disabilities. But again,
100%.
The only caveat is that you still had to be eligible for a student loan, right? So, and being eligible is determined by having at least $1 of need. So if you demonstrate through a combination of cost minus resources, if that equates to $1, then you get access to that $4,000 grant for this year, plus the service and equipment funding as well if you need that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Rob. I'm glad you mentioned the London Centre too. They actually have a lot of resources for students with disabilities, and you can just find them by searching the London Centre. I definitely check it out if you are a student with disabilities. So we actually had another question pop up, and it said, if a student previously had an NL student loan and repaid it in full after graduating, so like they're graduating, is it possible to access the student loans again if the student returns to MUN full time?
Yes, it is. Students have a lifetime eligibility for student financial assistance for 340 weeks of study. Regardless if they paid it off or not, it's a total of 340 weeks of study, which is about 10 academic years of assistance that's provided. If they move into a doctoral studies, there's an extra 60 weeks of funding for that, so that's up to 400. And if you're a student with a disability, the number goes up to 520 weeks of study of lifetime eligibility.
Wow, perfect. Is there anywhere online that they could read that?
Yeah, it's all on our website.
Perfect.
Under the eligibility tab, it would be in that eligibility tab on lifetime limits of eligibility.
Perfect. We actually had another question too, and they're wondering if any of the international entrance scholarships for the upcoming fall semester have been given out already.
A lot have, but we still have some funding remaining that we will be awarding between now and September.
Perfect.
Allison, I should mention that even the automatic eligibility, the lack of need for an application applies to international students as well. So international students are also considered based on their application to the university.
Okay, perfect. There's another question. This person is an international student. They've sent their recommendation letters to their admission officer when they were applying before receiving any acceptance. And they're wondering if they should send their recommendation letters again after they receive the final acceptance. And who should they send them to? I don't think, I don't think that's actually pertaining to, is that pertaining to financial?
That sounds like the student is wondering about their eligibility for scholarship.
Possibly.
And again, once they have applied to the university, the first point of consideration for scholarships at the international level is with the International Admissions Office. So if they've sent everything and they've been admitted, then they will have been considered automatically.
Okay. Perfect. And the people that are asking these questions, if you don't think it answers and you want to ask it again, you can just let us know, or if it answers it, amazing. So another question is, what criteria would someone need to meet in order to be eligible for scholarships?
So it's a little different for the entrance and undergraduate level. So given that we're talking only to entrance students here, correct? Am I making a correct assumption there?
I think maybe all students. It was a general one.
Okay, so at the entrance level, the eligibility for entrance scholarships is, for the most part, academic. There are some scholarships that require extracurricular activity and involvement, and those are application-based, and we award those early in the year, so they've been awarded since April. The academic piece, a scholarship standing cutoff is actually 75%, and that's 75 based on your courses out of high school, the courses that are required for admission to the university. So it's important to note, though, of course, that we rank our students from highest to lowest. We work from the highest averages down. We don't usually get much below the high 80s. So if you have a final admission average in the high 80s or above, there's a very good chance that you will get some type of scholarship. There are exceptions to that where we go lower in we go to lower averages, because some scholarships have very specific criteria. So, for example, we might have a scholarship for a student from a particular region of Newfoundland or a particular part of the country. And so obviously you're not competing then with the entire population, you're only competing with other students from that particular area. So, but in terms of general scholarships, the cutoff is 75, and we usually award down to high 80s.
Perfect. And do they have to get certain grades in order to keep their scholarship or student loan?
For scholarship, well, if the scholarship is renewable, then you'll be told at the time of awarding what the renewal criteria is. It varies. Some scholarships require scholarship standing, which is a 75% average on 30 credit hours in the previous scholarship year. Others require scholarship standing and first-class standing, which is first-class standing is a 3.5 GPA. And some scholarships are renewed automatically as long as you're in attendance, and you complete a full course load and so on. So it varies, but the scholarship criteria is laid out in the student's notification when they're first awarded scholarship.
Perfect.
Allison, I think for student aid as well, there is an academic element to the program. Students have generally for a 4-year degree program, students have 5 years of eligibility to complete the 4-year degree. So you must do an average of 4 courses per semester in order to meet that 10-semester limit. And there are exceptions to that, which we will deal with. We did at one point in time, many years ago, we would track students' academic progression on a semester by semester basis. We found that to be a huge waste of time, and we stopped doing it. So we now track people on whether or not if they withdraw completely from studies. So they have 2 opportunities to do that before they'll become ineligible for a period of 1 year, and a third drop leads to 2 years, a fourth drop to 3 years, and so on. So we allow the 10 semesters to 2 rules a day at the end of the process.
Perfect. So basically, as long as they're still enrolled and going.
Yeah, and the other part of the academic progress as well is that the Newfoundland loan, while it's low, it's at $40 a week as normal. It's gone to $100 a week for this year coming up. That provincial loan is forgivable for students who, in a given semester, if they do a full course load, they pass that full course load, in general, that full amount of the student loan, provincial student loan, will be forgiven. If they complete or only take 4 courses, it's only 50% of the loan. And if they only take, or if they take 3 courses, they're not eligible for a provincial student loan. You must do 4. But if you happen to have a bad semester and you've only passed three courses, then you wouldn't be eligible for any loan forgiveness for that semester for the Newfoundland loan. So it's important. So academic progress and success there is a reward at the end of the day of having the loan paid off once you graduate.
Perfect. And another question just came in. So are international students eligible for any types of grants or bursaries? And if yes, where would they find the information?
So I'll speak to the bursary. Bursaries are awarded through my office. We don't at the moment have any bursary program for international students. We only have the International Entrance Scholarship Program.
And as I indicated earlier, international students are not eligible for federal or provincial funding. You must be a resident of Canada or and one of the provinces. So. Or Canadian citizen, sorry, a Canadian citizen, and then being a resident of one of the provinces.
Okay, perfect. If they are an out of province student, wow, words, where can they receive assistance with their student loan?
So, as I said earlier, my office provides liaison and completes a lot of the paperwork for students. They have to apply to their home province, their home Ministry of Education, and that would all be found online with your provincial Minister of Education website. But any issues that come up, you can reach out to my office and we provide assistance. We do have an email specific to financial aid, which is financialaid@mun.ca. And there's somebody in my office who deals just with out-of-province students and providing that liaison service. In addition, the registrar's office in general has enrollment services in particular, provides some assistance as well.
Perfect. And Judy's office is the scholarships office at MUN. And are there scholarships that are specifically for students in certain programs, and how would they apply to these?
There are scholarships specific to programs. Generally speaking, if a scholarship at the entrance level is specific to a program, then they are awarded based on a recommendation from the dean of that program. So the dean of the faculty would assess the students for eligibility, determine who's most eligible, and then recommend that student to the scholarships office. And we would then process our scholarships from there. If you're in a specific faculty, as I mentioned earlier, it's a good idea to check with the dean's office to see if they require applications for any of their specific scholarships. We don't require that they provide us with an application, but sometimes the faculty itself will require that the students supply an application.
Perfect. And this is a student aid question. So if they decide to switch programs or change their major, can they still get student aid for their new program?
So students are permitted to change their direction, and we will allow that up to during the first 2 years of being in post-secondary. So with the student being up to 4 semesters, after the 4th semester, students must be registered in a faculty in order to be eligible to continue to receive funding. And after that, then switches are only permitted under exceptional circumstances after the 2nd year.
Okay, perfect. And in terms of student loan or student aid, does it matter if they are a part-time student or full-time student? Can they still get student aid being part-time?
Yeah, there's two separate programs. It's the same access, same login information, same website. There is an online application. Newfoundland, actually, we led the way last year in developing an online part-time application in collaboration with the federal government. It's a federal-only program, the province on the application. That's that program. So if you're not full-time, obviously part-time, so less than 3 courses, less than a 60% course load. The first $3,600 in need for this year, it's normally 18, but that's also doubled for this year, is in the form of non-repayable grant. And then students can borrow or carry a balance of up to $10,000 in federal part-time loans. In a given semester, the province also offers up to $500 in non-repayable grants for the first and second semester as well, in addition to what the federal government offers. So, again, same access point, all the information, separate tab there for part-time students only, and that goes down through all the information that's available and requirements for part-time study.
Perfect. And that's for the government website as well?
Yeah, same website. One of the things, Allison, that we've created is we're creating an online student profile page. So in prior years, that had very basic information: your name, address, social insurance number, an email address that we would validate. This year, we're starting to move more information in there into that profile page, so that if a student who's starting their first year this year, they'll enter information into that profile page, and they'll never have to enter it again in future years when they apply. So they'll just have to update information on their program and any employment or income information that we may need from one year to the next. So we're trying to streamline that process a little bit better, make it a little easier for students. You know, we don't need someone's date of birth is most likely never going to change in their entire life, but for some reason or other, we continue to ask that on every application every year. So we're going to stop that foolishness now and move to a profile page where students complete that once on their first application. They can change information on a go-forward basis, like, for example, if they change their address to become disabled, for example, if they change their status in terms of becoming from a single to a married student or have a dependent, that all the information can be updated at any time. There's some information that can't be changed unless they access our office, like their social insurance number, for example. Students cannot just arbitrarily change that. Once it's entered the first time, that field will be locked in place, and they'd have to contact our office if they want to change that type of information.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Rob. So it's 2:27 now, so we'll start to clue up. So Judy and Rob, if you have anything else that you would like to share with the incoming students.
I would just like to remind students that if they have any questions relating to scholarships, to U.S. student aid or out-of-province student aid, that is for provinces other than Newfoundland, you can email the scholarships. Email address is scholarships@mun.ca.
Perfect.
And for me, our application volumes are a little down this year. I'm not sure how enrollment is going at Memorial, but our application volumes are down about 14% compared to other years, about 25% across the country, actually. So we're seeing a drop in people who are applying. My concern is that folks are waiting to make a final decision on what their plans are. Even they may even be accepted into a program, but they just haven't yet applied. I won't have the ability to handle a wave of applications for folks who wait till the last minute to apply. So it's the message for me: if folks are going, they can still apply. If they change their mind after, they just don't, and their application will just expire out. But if you're hearing of folks who are on the fence and whether or not, tell them to apply. Anyway, like I said, they don't have to take the loan, or they can let the application expire. But my concern is that those who eventually make that decision, they want to go to school, I won't have enough time to have their loans and grants ready for them on the first day of classes. So that causes us great pain in the student aid office. We'd like to have everybody having their money on the first day of classes. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so just wanted to thank Judy and Rob for joining us there today, and thank all the students for joining us here today. Our next Ask Me Live studio is happening on Wednesday, July 12th at 2 p.m., so same time as this one. It'll be a Q&A with the Faculty of Education. So if any of you are interested in that or accepted to it, that'd be a great time to get some information from them. And you can join us every Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. for these studios. But just a quick thing about, I guess, as Rob mentioned, where enrollment is down, I guess a lot of people feel that coming to their first semester of university online will be a bit lonely. Definitely reach out to students, and as well, all of our emails are listed online. We're not just here today or Wednesdays. We're going to be here every day all year. All right, and thanks so much for joining us, everyone. I hope this helps someone. Have a great day.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Bye.
Bye.